Hello, everybody. I'd like to talk to you about the Supreme Court today, briefly. And suffices to say that I'm not very happy with them for more than one reason. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and let's begin. News has come out, and I don't know how this was buried for 3 years, that Samuel Alito flew the Stop the Steal flag at his home during the time transition between the Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The sign of the Stop the Steal movement is an upside down American flag, and that flag was flying outside of Alito's home after January 6th, and that is a huge conflict of interest because Samuel Alito is one of the justices who is sitting on the decision of whether or not Donald Trump has immunity against criminal prosecution. So it is clear, and by the way, Alito has blamed this on his wife. And in Thomas's case, he never has come out and blamed anything on his wife because there was no point of clarification. But there's ample evidence that Ginny Thomas aided and helped and promoted the January 6th Stop the Steal movement. Now, both of these justices are sitting in on the decision of presidential immunity in Donald Trump's case. It's difficult to prove whether them being part of the bench when deciding this case has anything to do with the delay or not, but we do know that the Supreme Court, when they make decisions, they have their clerks draw up briefs and then they share it among themselves, and then there's a consensus built, and when there's a consensus, the ruling comes out. The chances of there being two wrenches, Alito and Thomas, that can be thrown into any consensus that the Supreme Court's other justices built is more than likely, given that neither Alito or Thomas have the ethical bone in their body to say, no, we are going to recuse ourselves from this case because it clearly presents that issue of conflict of interest. It clearly presents a conflict of interest. There's a direct conflict of interest, and it can't get any closer. Even if you pawn that off to your wife, marital privilege is among the highest privileges which cannot be pierced through legal inquiry. So there's no way to really know whether it was Alito or his wife. So it was outside of Alito's house. It was a political statement by an associate justice of the Supreme Court who has refused to recuse himself from the criminal case, which is very much relevant to the point of the Stop the Steal movement. That is part of the criminal indictment. And it is frustrating, to say the least, that the only remedy that exists is impeachment and removal from office, and that can only happen if the House of Representatives impeach, and then if the Senate convicts by 67 votes. We don't have the votes right now to impeach Alito and Thomas, let alone get 67 votes in the Senate. The exercise would be wholly political, and it would fail. And I don't see the utility of doing that, because we are right now in a place, in a quandary that should present to us this very important question. What happens when government officials are so far beyond the reach of accountability that they cannot be removed despite knowing that there is heavy conflicts of interest in a particular criminal case where those two justices have a high likelihood of being partial, to one party, here Donald Trump. And it should be frustrating to every American that the only remedy we have for these high-ranking, lifetime appointment government officials is a political remedy of impeachment and removal, which is heavily dependent on the political climate and by the political machinations of people like Mitch McConnell, who blocked Merrick Garland's nomination in the last year of Obama's administration, but pushed through the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett at the end of Donald Trump's, last year of Donald Trump's administration. That inconsistency right there, they stole 2 seats. The Republicans stole 2 seats and installed conservatives onto the bench to secure an ultra rogue majority that undermines ethical standards and puts into question the veracity, the integrity of the Supreme Court's opinions to begin with. That's a dangerous, slippery slope, and that is a dangerous place for our government officials to be, where they are effectively immune from any sort of accountability. It gives us something to think about. And I hope that Americans think hard of what would happen if Congress could turn blue. That is one big solution we have coming up in November. If we can turn Congress blue, heavily blue, and I'm not hoping for 67 blue senators, that's a pipe dream. I am hoping for enough to impeach in the House, and then enough senators with a spine to be able to convict at trial. And then remove justices like Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, who in broad daylight do not concede that there is direct conflict of interest in them sitting in on this interlocutory appeal that has now been delayed for 3 months, and that delayed the underlying criminal trial for 3 months, over 3 months now. So, and it has been over 3 weeks that the Supreme Court has heard the oral arguments. Where is their expediency? Where was the expediency that they talked about in the very beginning? And where is the accountability that needs to come? It's sad, but it's true today that our Supreme Court is thoroughly compromised. So think about that when you go to the polls. And think about that if you're thinking about not going to the polls because you don't like either candidate at the top of the ticket. Pick democracy, pick accountability, pick fair justice, pick our republic, vote blue. And that will have consequences that we will see flower out past this year if we make the right decision. And if we somehow fail and Donald Trump gets into the White House and the Supreme Court continues the way it has, our country's government will lose credibility every single day. Lawlessness will increase by amplified measures, by exponentially every single day. And we are not ready for that kind of a dystopia. I don't believe that America can survive that sort of a dystopia. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe if you have reached the end, and I will talk to you soon.